All right, so you mentioned your father earlier, your biological father, and you
Mhm.
found out that he existed essentially at 55 years old, right?
No,
Or that's
27.
when you found him, was at
I did the
55?
test.
Yeah,
I went in to get the DNA test done at 55.
right.
He went into Dallas and I went into Tyler, and it was funny. I go there and there's this 20-something-year-old nurse goes, "Okay, you're here for the DNA test." I go, "Yes, ma'am." And she goes, "So you're the father?" And I go, "No, I'm the child. I've been
Right.
saving my money,
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
know, because I didn't really get the DNA for sure. And there's no way to know for sure. I lived a lie for 27 years, and I got to know him, and he was a great musician, and we did lots of things together, but there was always that nagging, uh, maybe this is another lie.
Yeah, what if?
What if?
Yeah.
And
So the obvious question there is, 27, you're essentially you met your father around that time. Is that right? Your
I
biological
was
father?
told by my grandmother that Tom Wallace was not my father.
Okay.
And then she told me a name. And then I played clubs for the next 2 years, looking at people like, "Are you my father? Are you
Yeah.
my father?" And I'd ask questions about him.
So was the DNA test a way to stop those feelings of wonder when you're
The
out?
What happened was it was never a good time to bring up the DNA test.
Yeah.
And Sammy was a lot like Will Nelson, just like that.
Yeah.
Don't start it and it won't stay. That kind of guy.
Yeah.
But some things happened that made me go, I could be living another lie. So I told him how I felt, and we got it done. And then I just embraced it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't know how to explain it, I talk to people all the time that have gone through this, and I tell them straight up, I said, if you're meeting a biological parent or child, first thing you do, you keep your boundaries, you meet up at a post office, you swap, put it in the mail, and then you wait for what happens, because it may be a lie.
That's very cool that he was open enough to understand.
Well, finally he was, but he didn't really know. He was treating me like we looked a lot alike.
Right.
But he was being very cool about it. But even until I did it, I don't think he truly knew for sure.
Yeah.
But he treated me like it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
so he knew for sure, but didn't know for sure.
I asked him, why didn't you pursue me? When you got back from the Navy.
Yeah.
And he was told that my mother hung around with a lot of men friends.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she wouldn't have anything to do with it. My grandparents went over to see me, and she denied access. And like I said, she broke down at the wedding and said it's not his. So, you know what I mean? It was just like, and it was like everybody was in shock. And I think my grandfather used to say things to me, but you talk about full circles.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather, his mother was a Houston. She was engaged to be married to an Irish blacksmith.
Okay.
He was kicked in the head and killed. So what happens? She gifts these people called the Heaths to raise him. And they lived on the same block. She married a Dillman, and he played with his half brother, but they didn't know anything about it. And he never told me the story. It was pieced together after the fact.
Mm.
But he used to play a lot of music, like he would record the Grand Ole Opry or play me like Billy Budd, the musical.
Yeah.
On his reel to reel. He traveled all over the world. He was a seed.
It's another massive influence on you.
Oh, big time, because everything was possible.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't say, quit sucking your thumb, Craig, you know, and all that. You know, he just like, I felt like if I wanted to be a veterinarian, I would have
Acceptance,
been
right?
Oh, total acceptance and love.
Yeah.
And that's in the particular landscape that
And
I
that
was
sounds
in.
like that could have been your light we talked about earlier,
Oh,
being
yeah.
in the darkness.
Oh, it was only light. But now, like, for instance, Girl from the North Country on the record, I wrote it because Gillen did it, but I wrote the arrangement. And if you listen to it, it sounds like you're in a car going down the highway, long trip.
Yeah.
And
We talked about ethereal earlier, very much so.
mhm.
Yeah.
And he had a woman that he was seeing, and she came into my life, and I got to know it. But it was one of those unrequited loves, and that's what that song is about, you know. And everybody goes, "Well, you're not playing blues right now." It's like, that's a blues, man.
Yeah.
My old time used to be, you know.
Yep. Definitely want to talk about that evolution about genre here in a little while, but
Okay.
not quite yet. At some point in time, all of us as human beings have to learn about forgiveness. If we don't, then we're not doing it right. Whether you're spiritual, religious, whatever it is. And at some point in time for you in your life, you really had a really close relationship with learning forgiveness.
Well, I'm
What was
still
that
working
like for
on
you?
it every day.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I talked to some friends to get to, you know, to find out forgiveness. When I did my first Anipi with you call him medicine man, but he was a Wakan Wichashi and named Bearhawk. And at the end of it, all said and done, he told me something that right before I turned 40, he told me, how do you get to compassion? And I told him what I thought about how to get to compassion. And he says, get compassion through forgiveness. How do you get to forgiveness? And I told him what I thought. And he says, you get to forgiveness when you start being grateful for the worst things that ever happened to you in your life. And from there on, it was like, so I'm still working on forgiveness, but I was told that by a friend that start on yourself, then everybody else will be easy. But
It's funny. My next question was, what was easier for you, forgiving your father or forgiving yourself? So you just answered that.
I didn't get mad at Sammy. He was a victim of circumstance. I've forgiven. I do my prayers every day for about an hour after I get the dogs out the door. But I light my sage and I say my prayers and I listen to sacred songs. And in the sacred songs, there's one about forgiving yourself and others. And I go through that and I'm slowly getting, you know, I'm not angry anymore because all these worst things that happened to me led me to forgiveness, and forgiveness will lead me to compassion to be a better, compassionate person. So I can't really complain anymore.
Yeah. It's not a perfect science, right?
I don't know what it is, man. I think it's a relationship for me, it's just a relationship between the great mystery.
Yeah.
It's not a God or anything like that. It's just, you don't know.
Yeah.
And guess what? I don't know either. But there's a mystery out there.
This is incredible stuff, man. I appreciate this so much. I want to talk about your beautiful wife, Andrea.
Well, is she here?
She went to knit.
She's going to go knit. She'll see it later, Craig.
Okay.
So first of all, she's a teacher, just retired, I believe.
Well, she was home with the kids.
Yeah.
I supported when Andrea got pregnant with our daughter Hagen. And she went back to work for about 4 weeks. We had a one-on-one sitter, but she was miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And then we lost the one-on-one center, and we went and got a daycare that was more expensive than most. But Andrea would go to work, come home and with Haley and try to make everything up. And then on the weekends, she tried to make everything up too. So I wrote an immaculation proclamation. What I did is I relieved her of all duties except to raise the kids. And she was at home until they became teenagers. Then she took a part-time job. And then when we came down here, she already had 2 degrees. And she got a teaching license. And they said she was a master teacher the first year that she started, but she did that 16 years. And I don't even know that world. You know, she leaves at 6:30 in the morning, comes home about 5:30, 6, and she's been doing that for a long time.
I've read a lot about you and a lot of the things that you have to say. It's just, you can tell the love story that you have.
Oh, we had her. Especially how it started. It's so funny. Because I was visiting.
Well, it started with a stolen song.
Really?
Well, that's what you told me. Greg Allman stole your song.
No, I was eating with her when the original Cut to Bleed was about how everybody has a better story bragging right.
Yeah.
You know, sort of like Monty Python. Well, my father killed us every morning, and we worked for 12 hours, and then he put us in a matchbox.
Yep.
You know, and then he killed us every morning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that's nothing. I'll tell you, hardship. You know, that kind of thing. But I was looking for a book on Koyana Squatchy, which is a Hopi term for meaning life is in turmoil, crazy life. And I went to this bookstore, Doubleday, and she was there, but I went to see a bass player friend of mine. And he said, and she was acting sort of goofy. After she waited on me, she was a little bit animated. And so it's so funny because Peter goes, I go, who is that? And he goes, Andrea. And he goes, she's not seeing anybody. You should ask her out. And I said, and then she left. And I followed her all the way down North Park, just right at the doors where she goes into the parking lot, right? And then I used this line verbatim. I said, excuse me, I know you only reject me in the end, but would you like to go out with me? And she did.
Wow.
And then she made me wait 2 weeks because she was thinking too much of me. But I will say that we have.
So she proved you wrong.
Oh, well.
She didn't reject you in the end.
No, she hasn't rejected me yet. Although she watches a lot of true crime, and I think she's going to.
She knows how to do it legally, though, right?
Right. She'll know how to. I remember one time I used to tell Heather that I know, we used to watch a true crime together, and I go, please don't give me slow doses of antifreeze for 2 months and kill me,
I've seen that one.
One time. and Heather and me were coming back from a gig, and my car was parked at her place, and she took a different turn, right, than she ever does to her place in Garden Valley where she lived at the time. And I go, oh, so this is where you and Andrea have it figured out to kill me. And she goes, damn it, Craig, you screwed it up. Damn, we'll quit.
That antifreeze story, my wife used to say, look, you don't like spice. All your food is bland as hell. You'll know if I put antifreeze in your shit. I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but there's so many other more ways.
Yeah, I know. We just get that one covered, right?
Well.
Yeah. That's the ultimate trust, though. Like, they know they can kill you legally without you ever even realize what's happening.
Yeah, they can do. Well, it's knowing about my childhood and everything. Now you understand. In my phone, it says Andrea is home.
Yeah.
I'd like, that movie Elizabethtown?
Mm-hmm.
I want to live in Andrea town. So, although I'm sure she will tell you how hard I am to live with, but,
Aren't we all, though?
we all are.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing about, I tell people all the time when they ask new couples, I go, man, I have a good marriage. 38 years,
Wow.
40 years together. Would you like to know the secret?
Absolutely.
And he said, and they say, what? I said, you have the right to bitch, moan, discuss any subject as long as you want, as long as you realize in the end you were wrong.
That's right. Yep.
And then, but one time I was spiritually, emotionally, logically right. And I said, I'm all these things, I'm right.
You're still wrong.
Yeah, you know what she said?
What?
You want to be right, or do you want to be in a relationship? So surrender.
Yep, that's right. Surrender.
Surrender.
That's the secret.
I think
Sorry.
she knows what I'm talking about.